Okay, hello, my name is Jim O'Brien, and in this video I want to illustrate something I've been trying to figure out for my GPS unit on my boat. So basically what I want to provide a way that I can take two GPS units and have one on my boat and then have one on one of my friend's boats. So, and then I want an app that runs on my tablet to show where I am and also show where they are. So I've was looking around at different techniques, and I ran across this LORA technology, and I think it's something that's really going to work for me. I'm new to LORA. I don't really know a heck of a lot about it. It sounds really interesting. It sounds like they use it a lot in Europe, and because there is LORA devices around in the U.S., but doesn't seem to be as many here compared to Europe. But I wanted to try it. The units are not expensive, so I decided, what the heck, let's try it. And so what I have here is I have a unit, and it's really basic. What it has is it's got a Raspberry Pi Zero, which in this illustration, this will be my local device on my boat. It's got a general GPS receiver. It's got the LORA transceiver, and this particular one will be connected up to talk to my tablet. You could use a hotspot, but you really don't need to, because the app that runs here, if you set this up to be a private network between the Raspberry and the tablet, then you should be fine. Some of the things that I still need to test. I'm not really sure how far apart we can get these two units. That's the big question mark, and I don't have the answers yet. So the units that I have are spec'd out at maximum 3 kilometers, and I would assume that means 3 kilometers without any obstructions. So I'm not quite sure what they are, but there's different types of units. The ones that I got were 3 kilometers, which were about $20, and I think it's a 100 milliwatt unit, and they make the exact same one in a 1 watt, which I think when you get the 1 watt one, it goes to 8 kilometers. But essentially what happens here is that over on their boat, they receive the GPS signals for their location, and this unit collects the GPS data, hands it off to LORA, and then LORA transmits it over, and then it's received on my local unit. So now I have GPS data for the slave device or the remote device, and I also have my own. So now with the leaflet and OpenStreetMaps, I can actually plot out where I am and where they are. Let me show you a little bit about the hardware device, so you can see it's nothing too much. This is the box all closed up. Doesn't have any indicators. I don't have anything that would add power draw from it, because it's going to be running off of potentially running off like a battery pack, or it could be if it's not hooked up to the boat and you're walking around out in the area or whatever, you'll have to use a battery pack. But if you're on the boat, you can just plug it in. So the inside is, like I said, it's just very basic. Here's the Raspberry Pi Zero. This is the GPS receiver, and this is the LORA transceiver. This is an E32. It's made by eByte. And so you're talking about $15 for the Raspberry Pi, $10 for the GPS, and $20 for the LORA device, and then the only other special thing is I had to get this short special cable to go from micro USB to standard USB for the GPS unit, and that's it. That's all that's required for the hardware. The antenna, this antenna doesn't really work that well. I don't really know where I got it, but this is an 868 megahertz device. That's what frequency it's running on. So they do make 868 megahertz the antennas. So there's another area that I'm kind of new at. So I'm gonna get a bunch of different types of antennas and play around with them and see if things improve as far as distance goes. So let me show you a little bit about the app. Okay, so here's the app. This runs on my tablet, but right now I'm running it on my laptop so I can do the video. But it's essentially the same. It's just that the scaling is a little different. But this is running real time right now. So here is where I am in the world. You can look at it from a U.S. point of view, which is probably more like North America than the U.S. And then you can get down to a little more local, and that's the general area that I'm in right now. So if I zoom in, okay, so here's the local one. That's where I am, and here's the slave one, or the remote one in red. I don't know where the blue one is exactly where I'm located. And the remote one is actually in the house also, so I don't know why it's that far apart, but my guess is if I look at the data that I'm getting, here's my local one, here's my GPS coordinates, here's the altitude, which seems a bit high, but it does seem to go down to 0, and we're pretty much at sea level, so it should be, I assume it should be at 0. Maybe, maybe 1. I think that's meters, and so 3 meters. I think it's it might be 3 meters. But here there's 12 satellites it picks up, and this shows me exactly where I am. But the remote one is telling me that its altitude is 35 meters, which is really wrong, and it's only picking up 5 satellites, and that might be why it's showing me showing my location across the street. It's not a big deal, but it's from there to there, they're both in the house. They're in about 2 rooms apart, so they should be pretty much side by side. So I have to dig into that. Maybe I know that the transceiver that's on my local one was a lot more money than the one that was I just illustrated with that white one that was in the box. The local one I have is a disc that's on a long USB cable, so maybe it's a better quality. I haven't really dug into the specs yet. So another thing I have is that, see, this is just moving around a little bit. It's probably getting a little bit of change in the longitude and latitude, but I've got this thing where I can clear it, and it'll just go back to the 1 dot. And when it comes back to the 1 dot, you can keep it that way, and so that when it moves again, it doesn't track. So here you can clear the track if you just want to get rid of it. But when you configure it, over here, this is the IP address for your local Raspberry Pi unit, and here's the port number it's listening on. And here you can, if you want to have tracking true or false, you can set that here. and then here you can set it up so that my particular tablet is this Fire HD10, which it fits perfectly on that tablet, but for this illustration I just stick with the laptop. I think that's about it. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. So anyways, thank you.